I welcome you all to our today's mentor session, From Transparency to Results, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, plus one by Doug Bloom, CEO, Dab Ventures. The founders that have joined us now for the session, we would like to briefly introduce KiwiTech. And with that, I would like to invite Himanshu Nangia, Director Strategic Partnerships, to give a quick overview of the company. Over to you, Himanshu.
So thank you, everyone. First of all, before moving forward, I would like to, give a background of KiwiTech, especially for those who are new to KiwiTech. KiwiTech is a global community of innovators, investors, mentors, and entrepreneurs. And of course, we also have enterprises, being run by those entrepreneurs. We have 500 plus portfolio companies. We have 3,000 plus investor networks, have been able to help them score and raise up to $100 million. We have 300 plus mentors. We have invested kind of 100 plus million in terms of tech services. And then we also have been organizing 100 plus networking events annually, which is helping investors connect with right startups through us. This is the milestones and how we all started. Founders basically started this company back in 2009, but the whole mentorship program, investor program started back in 2012 after our founders basically sold the previous venture for some $141 million. In 2013, we launched our first KiwiTech startup program. 2017, we already achieved 100 plus portfolio companies. 2019 was the year when we launched, 808 series, which is helping entrepreneurs learn about mistakes committed by other or previous, founders, previous, startups, so that they don't repeat those mistakes. 2020-21 was a year when we achieved, 100 plus portfolio companies to 500 plus portfolio companies. We have started organizing 100 plus events. We have acquired Graphite Financial, and then, there are a few more companies which are in pipeline from acquisition standpoint. The goal is to achieve 1,000 plus portfolio companies by the end of 2024, and we definitely are on a right track. These are the capabilities of KiwiTech. We are helping startups from technology services perspective. We are helping doing due diligence as well, which is helping, of course, investors as well as startups in figuring out, what could be the best partnership opportunity for them. We are providing financial and accounting services through our, Graphite Financial, firm that we acquired last year. We are organizing events. We are taking care of digital marketing strategies, and we are also taking care of crowdfunding, possibilities to help raise money through renowned crowdfunding platforms. These are the ecosystem events that have been organized in past, like Arena 24. We also have now very, renowned, name in Qatar market. We have organized family offices panels. We have organized angel investors. We have organized female founders days. So these are few events, but we have, more events, and of course, in coming quarter, we have few more events planned. So yeah, this is a kind of very high level overview, over to you, Nasheen, and definitely very interesting topic, which is being taken care by Doug Bloom of Dab Ventures, From Transparency to Results, and the 5 Dysfunctions of Team and plus one. Thanks, Nasheen. Over to you.
Thank you, Himanshu. That was a great overview. I would now like to invite Doug Bloom, CEO, Dab Ventures. The screen is yours, Doug.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the group today. My name is Doug Bloom. My company is DAB Ventures. I'll get a little more into my background in a couple minutes. We're going to be talking today about managing by agreement. Fred's presentation was about securing investment. My presentation is focused on how do you run your company. So the source material for this presentation comes from 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, a book Patrick Lencioni wrote in 2002, 20 years ago, but its messages are very important today. This quote captures what we're talking about when we talk about managing by agreement. The success and failure of an agreement is a result of how expectations, conditions, benefits, and consequences are understood and managed. And the person managing the benefits, consequences, and the understandings around the agreements is the leadership, leader of the company and the leadership team of the company. So I'm assuming that the audience is, the people in the audience are people that are C-level executives or owners or operators, and they're looking to figure out one of the things they might be able to learn or considers how to manage more strongly. My background, Himanshu talked about the mentors having and other people involved with KiwiTech having made mistakes, and the audience gets to benefit from mistakes. Well, I've got my share of mistakes out there. I'm currently a Pinnacle business guide, and I'm hoping to grow 6, 7, and 8-digit businesses with a focus on culture, strategy, and finance. Pinnacle is a new business operating system group. There's about 120 Pinnacle guides throughout North America. Some very successful guides. People have been doing it for 20 years and saw a different way of implementing business operating systems. And I encourage anybody who wants to know more about Pinnacle to reach out to me. My background, I have 30+ years in entrepreneurship and investing, everything from being a venture capital associate to working in a family office, to being a consultant to investors and entrepreneurs, a venture-backed CEO. And since 2017, I've been a business coach. I've grown businesses from nothing to millions of dollars in revenue. I've grown and managed sales forces in excess of 250 people nationwide. I've worked on the integration of 7 corporate acquisitions, and there's always great stories and horrors to tell there. Shut down businesses, sold businesses, hired and let go hundreds of people. Sat on more than a dozen corporate boards. I have a Wharton MBA, University of Penn computer science degree, undergraduate at Colgate in upstate New York, where it always seemed to snow in the winter. So that's my background. But bottom line is I've done a lot of different things from a lot of different vantage points around entrepreneurship and investing. And this quote here captures basically what I've come to learn about business. You as the entrepreneur or as the leader does not build a business. You build your people, and then your people build your business. And that's the late great Zig Ziglar who made that quote. But bottom line is building a business and running a business is a people challenge. It's not a intellectual challenge in that you can just figure it out and it'll all work. And if you think, I used to ask people when I was a venture capital associate, what's the most important thing you need to build a business? And people used to say money, investors, margins, and I used to say no, it was a team. And bottom line is you need a customer, which is a people thing, and you need a team, which is a people thing. So if you have customers and a team, you can have a business. So why are we here? From Patrick Lencioni himself. If you could get all the people in an organization rowing in the same direction, you could dominate any industry in any market against any competition in any time. That's a pretty interesting way of looking at it. If you get everybody just to work together in unison, you could outperform your competition, provide great service, and make a lot of money. And I think that's the game that everybody's playing here in the entrepreneurial space. So why are we here? Entrepreneurship itself is hard. Leadership is hard. Getting agreement is hard. Failure is not an option. You've committed your entire savings, your energies, your ego, and your intentions into the business. Failure is not an option. So an engaged and committed team is in agreement, and that team in agreement is your competitive advantage. So what the reality and what the message of this presentation is that teamwork and working on teamwork is a goal unto itself. As an entrepreneur, if you're not spending a considerable amount of time focused on how is my team doing, team health, team performance, team results, then you're missing the boat. You can be working to gain competitive advantage, but if you lose your team in the process, you won't be able to execute against it. What does lack of agreement look like? I go back to Tolstoy on this. In Anna Karenina, Tolstoy wrote, "All happy families are alike, and each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way." So what does lack of agreement look like in your company? Lack of agreement looks like many different things because it has many faces. It looks like missed goals, unclear winners and losers in your team, missed deadlines, cost overruns, poor quality, silo-based management, missed meetings, politics, key staff walking out the door. Lots of signals of a lack of agreement, lack of unity in your company. What causes a lack of agreement? And just to go back, it's not just poor results, it's poor interactions, it's confusion, it's ambiguity, it's lack of clarity. What causes a lack of leadership? Clearly a failure, a lack of agreement, clearly a failure of leadership causes that. You might have the wrong team members, whether it be skills, gap, temperament. Might be lack of vision and mission work, which means that people don't know where you're going and can't buy in. It might be that your customers don't get your product. There's lack of a market pull. You could have constrained profit opportunities. You just can't buy low enough or sell high enough. And it might be you're just limited on capital. You're capital constrained. And most businesses are capital constrained when they're growing through the low millions. You could be limited in capital and your capital is too expensive, or your cash flow is too slow. But bottom line is, all those other challenges can be dealt with if you have great leadership and great teamwork. You can work on those other problems. You cannot work on any of the other problems in your business if you fail to lead. If you have questions or observations along the way, please raise them. I'm certainly looking forward to see what your impressions are. From Bren Brown, leaders must either invest a reasonable amount of time attending to the fears and feelings or squander an unreasonable amount of time trying to manage ineffective and unproductive behavior. So how many entrepreneurs out there have basically had employees they know they need to invest some time and energy into them to redirect them, help them be more productive, or just to set expectations appropriately, and you don't. Well, every time you don't, you cause more challenges, more ineffective work, more unproductive work. What causes leadership failure on the part of the leader? A lack of clarity, a lack of accountability, a lack of commitment, selfishness, ego issues, a lack of emotional intelligence. The old adage, or the new adage, you can quote me on, is screen on IQ and hire on EQ, which means as smart or skilled as somebody might be, if they do not have EQ, you cannot hire them, because all you're doing is bringing on more problems in the long run. This is from Greg Crabtree. Greg Crabtree wrote a book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. And his book is oriented at helping the $1 million business grow profitably. And if you haven't heard of this book, you need to grab it and understand it, integrate it into the way you think about the numbers in your business. But Crabtree says that never forget that plain old world-class execution is your best protection from competition, competitors, and is a profit generator. Very few businesses can really deliver old world execution. And so how do you get old world execution? It goes back to what Lencioni said earlier in our presentation. It goes back to being able to have everyone row all in the same direction. So I think there's a question maybe in chat. I'm going to check it. No, I don't think there is. Well, that explains that. No questions. It's going to be, that's quite really funny, because we're going to get to something where I actually talk about no questions. So what does working in agreement look like? Does your organization, ask yourself these questions out there. Do you have regular meeting cadence? You have a daily meeting, a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting, a quarterly meeting? What's your meeting cadence? And how effective are your meetings? Do you have an open, safe dialogue centered on what's true when facing challenges? Does your team work together without motives, without ego? Do you make public, timely, difficult decisions? They don't all have to be difficult, but if they are, you still have to make them. Not making the difficult decisions is one of the challenges that the leaders face. Do you have organized and regular accountability? Do you have a score sheet? Do you have weekly, quarterly, or annual shared goals and rewards? Do you have themes that these rewards are based around? When you have these types of behaviors going on in the business, it provides an environment where your team can work in agreement. So how do we get to understanding where the 5 dysfunctions of a team? Bottom line is the 5 dysfunctions of the team, I said, was a book written by Patrick Lencioni. Simply, it was a fable that he constructed, a story he constructed about a company called Decision Tech in Silicon Valley. And it was originally an outstanding company, but it ran into difficulties. The difficulties are the ones you'd guess: missed deadlines, quality issues, departures of key personnel. The story was built around the CEO, Catherine Peterson, and shows how she began to learn about the 5 dysfunctions and how to confront them. Without reading the book, this is a representation of the 5 dysfunctions. It's represented as a pyramid with the base of the first dysfunction, and how the other dysfunctions are patterns which evolve because of the prior dysfunction. I put at the very base that transparency and truth seeking is what we're seeking in our relationships in the company. Because without a transparent truth seeking, we have an absence of trust. When people don't trust each other, they can't raise issues. And when we don't raise issues, we have a fear of conflict. When we have a fear of conflict, we cannot resolve issues. And with unresolved issues, people do not commit to the plan. With a lack of commitment to the plan, we can't hold people accountable. And if we don't hold people accountable, we're not going to get results. So how does this work? If you look at your company and you don't like the results you're getting, look at the level of accountability, clarity and accountability you have around what's supposed to be done. Not just results, but the behaviors. What activities are you holding people accountable to? And what behaviors and standards are you holding people accountable to? If you're holding those standards high, but people aren't performing, then you have to go back and look at the commitment level. And I'm trying to understand what is making people commit or not commit to the standards and behaviors you're expecting. If you do not have commitment, then you have to understand, do people feel like they have a voice to bring up their issues as to what prevents them from committing? And if you feel like they do not have that voice, or they're not bringing that voice forward, then begin to look at the level of trust and eventually the level of transparency you have around the business. The absence of trust, to quote, these are quotes from Lencioni throughout the next piece of this presentation. Trust is knowing when a team member does push you, they're doing it because they care about the team. It's not personal. Remember, teamwork begins by building trust. And the only way to do that is to overcome our need for invulnerability. So trust begins when we are open and we do not put ego front and forward, that we're willing to take it on faith that everyone is participating for the good of the team, and which means the good of everyone as a collective. Bottom line, say it again and again, trust comes from transparency. Fear of conflict is the second dysfunction. Fear of conflict happens when there's no trust. I think this quote here is very important. I don't think anyone ever gets completely used to conflict. If it's not a little uncomfortable, then it's not real. The key is to keep doing it anyway. Constructive conflict is what we're looking for in the business. We're looking for people that can raise the issue and do so in a way that others feel safe enough to respond and engage. Great teams do not hold back with one another. They are unafraid to air their dirty laundry. They admit mistakes, weaknesses, and their concerns without fear of reprisal. Right? So this is an environment where people raise their hand. Bottom line, great things happen when teams constructively exchange ideas. The third dysfunction is lack of commitment, and commitment doesn't happen when people feel that their issues aren't being addressed by the plan. So it's difficult for people to commit to a plan that they don't believe in, or they have challenges with, or that you're going to harm them in some way. Politics is when people choose their words and actions based on how they want others to react. Political action in the company is dangerous. So this is an interesting quote by Lencioni: not finance, not strategy, not technology. It is teamwork that remains the ultimate competitive advantage. All of his books ring true with the need for teamwork, and teamwork being the ultimate competitive advantage. And bottom line, teamwork requires trust and commitment around objectives, roles, and goals. And as a leader, it's your job to make sure that people not only can tell you what the objectives, roles, and goals are, but they actually own them. They actually make them theirs because they believe in them. Avoidance of accountability is the fourth dysfunction. And this first quote, once again, is pretty interesting. And it's just really simple message. I don't think it's easy to hold anyone accountable, not even your own kids. Accountability is tough to do, and accountability requires clarity. Accountability requires consistency. Accountability requires some patience, some tolerance, and some intolerance. But bottom line, the enemy of accountability is ambiguity. If you let people off the hook, or if people find a way not to be accountable, most oftentimes they do not step into accountability. Bottom line, you can quote me on this: feedback is the breakfast of champions. The more feedback we give, the more feedback we create into our business systems, the better chance we have. That means things such like weekly score sheets, weekly reviews of the score sheet, monthly reviews of performance, quarterly planning, quarterly rocks, and accounting against those rocks in, week out as the quarters proceed on. Inattention to results or lack of results, both are kind of the same thing. That occurs when people aren't accountable to results. The team that's not focused on results, not accountable results, stagnates, fails to grow, rarely defeats competition, loses achievement-oriented employees. Bottom line, when we have an inattention to results, we fail to realize the mission of the company. And the bottom line is the quality of our results answers the question, are we achieving the mission? So where do we go from here? If you don't make things happen, things will happen to you. I do not know who wrote that, who first said that, but that's the key here. The key here is you need to take action so that you can actually organize your activities around leadership. This is a model of management by agreement. Management by agreement simply means having buy-in from your team. To manage by agreement, the alternative to managing by agreement is managing by expectation. So managing by agreement, the example that's often cited is if you're having a regularly scheduled meeting and an employee consistently shows up late, you might punish that employee. But if you talk with that employee and find out that they have a meeting which butts up against the beginning of the meeting you're running, then you can begin to work with that employee. That employee can't buy into a meeting, a situation which causes them to fail by design. But if you help them and you help organize what are the challenges they're facing and figure out how they can actually adjust, then you have a chance to get the results you wanted, which is attendance. So managing by agreement means you must create an environment of trust. You must be clear about what's expected and who's doing what. You must then seek commitment into the roles and goals. And then you shoot for accountability. These four activities inside the box are how you create management by agreement, which is the best way of turning your vision into results. Brian Tracy said this years ago, leaders think and talk about solutions, followers think and talk about the problems. One of the other challenges or opportunities you have as a senior leader in an organization is to understand what activity you're taking and what questions you should be asking. And to label this slide, act your wage. And bottom line is the strategic questions. There's 4 questions in business: what, when, who, and how. What are we going to do, by when, who's going to do it, and how's it going to be done? But if you're at the C-level thought process of a business enterprise, you're thinking about what and when, what's going to be done, and when is it going to happen? And you allow the management level of the organization to figure out who is going to do what by when, and the supervision level of the organization to figure out how is who going to do what by when. So we need as strategic leaders to focus on what and when. And then we start figuring out the resources in terms of who and what are the resources you need at the management level, the tactical level. We go from strategic level to tactical level. And then finally, at the execution level, there's a how question. Now, in a small company, the C-level leadership might be dealing with tactical and resource planning a lot and acting as a manager in the company. And they may actually be acting as a supervisor as well, showing people how to do things or figuring out how things should be done. But at the end of the day, these conversations should be separate. You shouldn't be jumping from a strategy question down into the execution question. Allow that execution reality to sit and make it a task reportable to the strategic dialogue. Because separating these questions will allow you to more effectively create an environment where the people who are doing the work, the how people, and working through the who people, are being empowered by the who people to achieve the mission of the company, which is the what and when. More tactically, in terms of implementing management by agreement, bottom line, you start small, you go slow, you focus on being effective overall with each step. The first step, obviously, is to be transparent, to begin to understand where is my transparency in the organization, and do some activities. Those activities could be things such as doing an assessment, doing some workshops, bringing in some outside help to help you. You need to build trust, have dialogue, have conversations around what's real and what's not real. You don't need to be living in thermal infusion layer above all the fire and brimstone that your employees live in and seeing blue skies. You need to be understanding what they're dealing with on a week in, week out, day in, day out reality. This is very funny because we're in a presentation format which does not provide an opportunity, great opportunity for giving back and forth. View silence as a disagreement and a disengagement. If you're bringing out ideas to your team and your team is sitting quietly and just nodding their head, you do not have confirmation of their agreement, of their engagement, of their commitment, of their willingness to consider your side and for willingness to bring forward their side of the equation. You need to force a safe and respectful discourse. Safe is huge. People should be able to bring up ideas without repercussion, as long as the ideas are non-personal and non-attacking. And even if the ideas are threatening to the very existence of the company, they need to be able to bring those ideas forward. Otherwise, they will always be present and they will never be dealt with. And respectful as well. Everyone should have a voice in everyone's personal spaces and personal characteristics and should be respected. Excuse me. You need to make timely decisions even when they might be wrong. Not making decisions at time is perceived weakness that doesn't help your company. You're better off being wrong sooner than being right later. The Marines use the 70% rule, which says if they have 70% of the resources they need to act, 70% of the intel they need to make a decision, and 70% of the intel and 70% of the resources they need to act, and 70% confidence or more that it's the right way to go. They take the task and they move forward and they adjust as they go. And it's something to consider as you are working challenges in your organization and in your business life, that maybe you have enough to make the decision and go. Avoid relying on consensus. Consensus, if it's immediate, if it's quick, it's probably the right task. If you're stuck making a decision to just go with consensus because that's everybody feels good about it, it's probably not the right decision. You need to look for the decision which is the best fit, even if it has some risk to it and some people are a little bit concerned. Address their concerns, brainstorm around what you do if those concerns prove real, but take the decision which has the best opportunity for success in terms of reaching your goals, not necessarily in terms of turning out. Drive frequent accountability discussions. That means weekly score sheets. That means regularly, once a month, reviews of employee performance. It means monthly review of corporate performance. It means quarterly reviews of major objectives the company's trying to achieve. In the Pinnacle Guide space, we say look back, look up, look out. That means look back and see what's been accomplished. Look up to remember where we're going in the long run, and look out and see what the path in front of us holds and the opportunities it presents and the needs that need to be met as we move along. Identify, celebrate, reward organizational wins and the individual efforts which made them happen. Make sure to celebrate. Most companies don't celebrate enough. It's a very difficult thing to build a company. You need to celebrate as you're moving along, not looking back over years. Identify the organizational wins and reward them. I mean, the rewards can be simple. Rewards can be a half day off. Rewards could be a party. Rewards could be gift cards. Rewards could be a lot of different things. But just create a culture of rewarding organizational wins. And the other thing is also recognize in your own way the individuals who participated in making those organizational wins, not personal wins, but organizational wins, a reality. And finally, I can tell you, get a coach. Every business leader needs a peer group, and every business leader needs a coach. And actually, every senior team needs a coach. That's quick. I probably raced through it quicker than I should have, but that's my offer to you as a group. Bottom line, we lead by agreement when we create a culture of trust, discourse, clarity around goals, roles, and responsibilities, accountability, and celebration. I'm a Pinnacle Guide. I'm based out of Philadelphia. Love to talk with you if you want to learn more about what I do. And more so, I'd love to talk with you if I can learn more about what you do. Pinnacle says you don't reach the top of the mountain by falling there. So getting there is a climb, and let's climb together. Thank you for your time. I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Doug. That was a great presentation. And we do have some questions. What can a leader do to create an environment of trust?
I think to some degree that depends upon the community within the company, but things that a leader can always do is they can be transparent themselves. They can talk about their issues. There's another presentation I have around, is it lonely in the corner office? And if you reach my website, talk a lot about, is it lonely in the corner office? Most leaders get that loneliness because of one simple thing: they're not transparent. And when you lose your transparency, when you're not being open to the world, those opportunities for discussion and feedback and perspective are no longer available. And so the walls just keep closing in. So one thing is to be transparent in terms of what you do. Another one is to encourage people to speak their mind and bite your tongue when you do. It should be non-judgmental, it should be judgmental, it should be safe. If the person's misinformed, you feedback what you've heard from them. I hear you saying ABC. Am I hearing you correctly? And the person, once they nod their head, you say, I don't agree with you, may I tell you how? And they can feedback, you can then feedback DEF, so that you create an environment where exchange, respectful, considered intent exchange is created. So be transparent, create exchange, be the model of how you want people to interact, and mostly then create a cadence of bringing up topics and dealing with them in a group. And maybe partially your senior teams deals with them, and then you present them to the broader group and you get input. And maybe sometimes you just bring things to the broader team, and sometimes you deal with it yourself. It really depends upon your organization and the level of sophistication of your team. But bottom line, it's transparency and creating discourse.
All right. What do you do when members of the team aren't buying into the mission?
I think you have to go back to that's talking about not having a level of commitment. That's dysfunction number 3. I think once again, you have to go back and try to call out of them what information or what concerns are they sitting on that they're not bringing forward. So when you do not have buy-in, you do not have an open dialogue. So then you have to go back and actually start saying, let's tear this plan apart. What's wrong with it? Maybe even put forward stupid ideas and see how they, foolish ideas to see how they respond. If you put forward a foolish idea and no one hits on it, then you can bring that right to the group and say, look, I think I put this forward because I've heard this and some people want to do this, or some people consider that maybe we should do this. Here's the things I see wrong with it. What else do you see wrong? But you create it, you have to get people talking about why they're not committing. And it could be personal stuff. It could be that they just don't have the energy. They don't have the inspiration. They don't see the reward. They see too much risk and not enough result. And so you need to be real about that. And you don't shut them down. You walk side by side with them and have the dialogue.
All right. What do you mean by manage via agreement, not expectation?
Yeah, and I probably could have done a better job explaining that in this presentation, but managing by expectation is you put out the roles, responsibilities, and the standards and the result targets, and you just expect them to happen. And that may or may not happen. If you don't have people well understanding what the plan is, what the pieces of the plan are, and how they participate, what roles and responsibilities and where they align and where they conflict, and where they start and stop, and what the handoffs are, and people don't understand what they're really targeted with doing, then you can expect it all you want. It's probably have a low chance of it happening. However, if you manage the process of getting people to buy in to the plan by creating an environment where the people can feedback and get understanding from you or from your team, your senior team, about what's important and what makes it important, they can buy into the company's values, and the plan is aligned with the company's values. Then you're giving them clear indication this is the way you want to go. I mean, you can't think of an orchestra where nobody has the same sheet music. So managing by agreement is more than, nobody has the same sheet music, but they all agree, they all know they're going to play different things. So managing by agreement is putting the sheet music out there and getting everybody to agree they're going to play on your cue by setting the cadence, they're going to play the music the way it's written. So management by agreement is those 4 steps in the graph. Let me go back. I'm acting like you're controlling it's building trust, it's building clarity, it's clarifying what's important, what's not, what's going to happen, what's not. It's about defining roles and goals, getting commitment from them, and then pursuing results and being accountable and using feedback as a guidance system as you're going along.
All right. Thank you, Doug, for the presentation and all the responses.
Thanks to everybody in the audience. I hope I was helpful in helping you learn one thing. And once again, you reach out to me at DAB Ventures. If you are focused on challenges, we can have a virtual cup of coffee, and that's on me.
And with that, I would like to thank our mentors and guests for joining us today. And we will be back soon with more workshops. Also, apart from the workshops, we have more upcoming events, as you can see on your screens. You can check out our KiwiTech website for the same. Do join us, and we would love to host you on those events as well. Thank you, and have a great day ahead.